Should farmers themselves be allowed to fix the tractors that they paid for? Farmers say yes, but John Deere says no. This leaping Deere is beloved by hard workers across the globe, enjoying a legacy of nearly 200 years. But, like almost everything else in America, this one is ripe with controversy. In this episode, you're gonna learn the rich history of these Illinois tractor boys and why a ton of farmers are suing them. This is everything you need to know to get up to speed on John Deere. Big old thank you once again to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's episode of Up to Speed.
Bet you didn't think you'd see me again. Now with a few clicks, I will have all of your information, Mr. James Kentucky Cobra Pumphrey. Oh, so you've been Googling a lot of images of horses. What are you, a horse freak? This is fun. I didn't know you liked pickle juice so much. Oh, I know all sorts of fun stuff about you. What? Hacklock? Wait, no.
And that's the power of Surfshark VPN, baby. With Surfshark's HackLock technology, you don't have to worry about Hacker Jerry stealing all your stuff. It scans databases all over the internet looking for your personal information and will alert you if your accounts are compromised, making your online experience safer. One of the coolest features is the ability to swap my location, giving me access to stream TV shows normally blocked here in the good old United States. I'm talking anime. If you want better online protection, click the link in the description below and try Surfshark VPN today. Enter promo code DonutMedia for freaking 85% off and an extra 3 months free. Support sponsors that support Donut. And now, back to the show. Up to speed. A battle between farmers and John Deere has been quietly fought inside barns, fields, and courtrooms all over the country for years now. Now, the crux of this issue is this. Should farmers be allowed to repair their own tractors like they have been for 100 years? Now it sounds crazy, but John Deere has argued that farmers don't even own their tractor, but instead an implied license to operate them. So how did it get this way? Well, we should probably start at the beginning. Chapter 1, the Plowlogue. Our story about tractors begins before tractors were even tractors, back when tractors were horses and mules and stuff. In 1837, a blacksmith by the name of, you guessed it, John Deere, was living in Grand Detour, Illinois. So one day, John's hanging out with these farmers, right? And these farmers, they have a problem. Dan Aykroyd. Chicago accent. Chicago. Hey, we got a problem. Our plows don't be trudging through this root-ridden, sticky Midwestern soil and such. Yeah, this mud is deeper than our friggin' pizza. Hey, not so fast there, pal. Not all of our pizza is deep. Some of it is really thin and crispy. Yeah, we need a plow that we can drag through the garden like our freaking hot dogs. Yeah, no ketchup. So John got to thinking. He remembered this broken steel saw blade that he had sitting in his shop that he had salvaged from a nearby sawmill. So he threw the blade onto a plow and voila, it worked really freaking well. And he was able to pump out so many plows that he left the small town of Grand Detour for the big city lights of nearby Moline, Illinois. In 1876, Deere registered the iconic Leaping Deer logo with the U.S. Patent Office, which went on to become one of the longest continually used logos of all time and a staple of mesh-backed hats with really curved bills. Even if the company never got into the tractor game, John Deere would have earned a spot in American history with this plow alone. Chapter 2, the first Deere. In 1892, 103 years before Post Malone was born, a dude named John Froelich invented the first gasoline-powered tractor. It used a one-cylinder engine to move the machine backwards and forwards. Froelich met up with businessmen in Waterloo, Iowa, and they all partnered together to form the Waterloo Gasoline Tractor Company, which immediately began struggling as the company was only able to sell 2 tractors before running out of money. But then in 1914, they introduced their R model tractor, which unlike the first attempt, was a really freaking sick tractor, and the company sold 8,000 of them before it was discontinued. The Waterloo Company's experience made it very attractive to another company that was looking to round out their farm equipment line, and that company was Caterpillar. JK, it was John Deere. In 1923, John Deere released their first tractor marketed as a John Deere. No more Waterloo nameplate, okay? I'm calling this thing my name. Thing had a freaking kerosene burning, soil churning, 2-cylinder engine pushing 15 horsepower. They called it the Model D. While other tractor makers were experimenting with more powerful 4-cylinder designs, John Deere was making a conscious decision to make a less advanced tractor because they knew their customers were relying on their machine to survive. And that stands in stark contrast to Deere's fight to keep farmers from repairing their machines today. The Model D was a huge success. It's basically the 32 Ford of the tractor world. Over the course of its 30-year lifespan, John Deere sold 160,000 Model Ds. So fast forwarding a little bit through history.
The Great Depression messes up the economy, then World War II followed, which meant John Deere couldn't make tractors.
But when the Allies won, John Deere got back to work on the next big thing. The 1949 Model M took 2 years to design and would be John Deere's best tractor yet. Now, it was conceived as the complete farming package. Hydraulic touch-o-matic controls in front of the driver allowed them to adjust plow height on the fly, and out back, the new quick-attach system meant anybody could hook up equipment to the Model M by themselves, which streamlined the entire experience. John Deere also made the Model M super comfy for farmers by including an air cushioned seat and an adjustable steering wheel. My cars don't even have adjustable steering wheels. John Deere produced a version of the M for construction called the MC. The C stood for crawler because this booger had tracks like a freaking tank. This was a big deal for the company because it showed that John Deere could innovate outside of the farming industry. And also, who doesn't like freaking tank tracks?
Chapter 3, hay bales and snowmobiles.
If you're a city dweller like me, you might not ever encounter hay bales in the wild outside of the Red Bull soapbox course, or maybe on Halloween at Knott's Berry Farm or your local hayride facility. But farmers, they rely on it because in the winter when grasses aren't growing in the pasture, they need something to feed their livestock, and that's where hay comes in. It's like shredded wheat big biscuits for animals. In the 1930s, automatic balers were developed to form and tie hay bales with twine. The problem with these balers is that you usually needed someone behind you to throw the bales into the wagon. But that changed in 1957 when John Deere introduced the 14T baler, which had so-called bale ejector technology, which could throw the bales into the wagon for you, making hay baling a one-person job for the first time. Another leap for Deere around this time was the increase in engine displacement. Up until 1959, 2-cylinder engines had powered all of Deere's tractors. But in 1960, that was about to change as they introduced 4- and 6-cylinder engines across the entire lineup, giving farmers even more power, baby, in their fields. After the baby boom in the 1950s, the concept of the American suburb was spreading all over the country, and with cookie-cutter tract homes, usually comes a lawn. And boy, did Americans love their lawns. By 1959, nearly 6 million lawnmowers had been sold in the US, and John Deere wanted in on that market, but with a different kind of mower, a tractor for the suburban age. In 1966, John Deere unveiled the John Deere 60 lawn tractor. Besides the mowing blade underneath, there were a bunch of attachments for the urban tractor warrior that loves gear, like a snow thrower, snow blade, and a pull-behind sprayer so you can spray delicious lawn treatment formulas behind you. While John Deere had wide name recognition within the world of agriculture, putting their baby tractors on suburban lawns all over the US really brought the brand into the mainstream.
Because nothing runs like a Deere.
John Deere followed that up with an even nuttier attempt at mainstream success with a line of snowmobiles. In 1971, they started with a 339cc model called the 400 and a 463cc one called the 500. Deere stopped building the sleds in 1982 after selling the brand to one of their competitors, Polaris. You ever heard of it? Oh! In 1972, John Deere was poised to drop another bomb on the farming game in the shape of their Generation 2 tractors. These beefy boys were unlike anything the company had released before. Instead of sitting on top of the machine outside in the sun, Gen 2s had an enclosed cockpit called the Sound Guard. Not only did it protect you from the black hole sun's rays, but the insulated cabin was also equipped with ample sound deadening to give your ears a rest. Again, improving a farmer's whole way of life. The largest of these tractors was the 4630, a crop row tractor making 150 horsepower. What's a row crop tractor? As the name suggests, a row crop is designed for the cultivation of road crops. As the 80s rolled on, John Deere started to focus more on fuel efficiency within their lineup, and the change-up couldn't have come at a more opportune time for them. Thanks to the combination of crop overproduction, embargoes, and declining crop exports, farms around the US were in pretty bad shape. The event was called the farm crisis.
Finally, we get to talk about another crisis other than a gas crisis.
I talk about it so much, we're making it a shirt soon. But because of Deere's refocus, while other manufacturers like International Harvester were really feeling the heat of the farm crisis, John Deere was able to make a profit and went right ahead with new designs. They released a bunch of new tractors, but we like big stuff here, so I'm gonna talk about the big one. The largest of these new tractors was the gigantic Model 8850, a V8 powered, 370 horsepower, four-wheel drive beast. It's like the freaking Charger Hellcat wide body of tractors. But capabilities like this came at a cost. $120,000, about $320,000 in today's money. John Deere was on top of the game, but was once again looking to break into some new markets. But this time around, John Deere wouldn't be taking on a specific task like they did with the lawn tractor. This new Deere would be about utility.
Chapter 4. Gator Aid.
In 1992, John Deere dropped the Gator TH. This humble work vehicle was designed for all sorts of work in mind. They're a friggin' blast. It's like the first thing that most of us drive, that or a golf cart. The TH came in a 6x4 configuration, meaning 6 wheels, 4 of them putting power to the ground. Deere also released the slightly less hardcore Gator TS, which had 4 wheels instead of 6. Now the Gator is important not only in John Deere's history, but I think it helped shape an entire sector of motorsports today. Now stick with me. With the success of the Gator, other manufacturers followed suit with their own utility vehicles. Companies like Polaris and Yamaha. Now these things were definitely meant for hard work, much like the Gator. But owners discovered something. They are freaking so fun to drive. Polaris was the first person to recognize this and built a utility vehicle that wasn't so much utility, and they called it the Razor. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but Razors are freaking everywhere. You drive into any freaking suburb, you either got an RV, a boat, or a Razor. John Deere even got in on it with the Razor RSX line. The RSX had 4-wheel drive and a top speed of 60 miles per hour. 60 miles per hour in an off-road golf cart. The Gator reintroduced John Deere to millions of people who have never otherwise come in contact with the brand. I mean, I've never driven a tractor, but I've driven like a million Gators. In 1994, John Deere dropped the Model 8000 tractor, another game changer for farming productivity. The engineers wanted to drastically improve the turning radius of the tractor, which would help farmers get their vehicles on track in the fields more easily. But it just seemed impossible until engineer Terrell Woods had an idea. Right? Put the engine way up above the front axle and use a drop box transmission. This eliminated the need for wider frame rails, so the front wheels could be turned much tighter. The design worked. The advancement was so significant to farming that the Smithsonian Museum of American History included Terrell's drawing in an exhibit of significant napkin innovations. It seemed that John Deere could not be stopped as the 20th century came to a close. They were killing the farming game. But as the 2000s got into gear, some people actually believed that. Like John Deere was actually killing farming. Chapter 5, Right to Repair. Going back to the question that opened this episode, should farmers themselves be allowed to fix the tractors that they paid for? Because today's Deeres are so advanced, some even driving themselves, John Deere says that to repair the machine is less of a mechanical issue and more of a question about software rights. Now, technically, you can still replace parts on your John Deere, but then you got to take your tractor to an authorized dealer for a mechanic to clear all of the error codes in the computer to get the machine operating again. Loading up a tractor ain't cheap. Some farmers have reported that it costs $1,000 just to get their tractor to and from the shop, not counting the cost to have the actual codes cleared. Now, farmers say that John Deere essentially has a monopoly on the repair market. Make no mistake, John Deere is making money on this arrangement, but the tractor maker has a few rebuttals to this argument. Just like in your car, tractors have to meet emission standards. And let's say a farmer has access to all the engine controls and tunes his Deere to make a little mo power, baby, creating more pollution in the process. Now that's not good. Another common Deere talking point is the threat of unintended consequences cascading through the computer system by a well-meaning mechanic not exactly knowing what they're doing and making the problem worse. That's sweet of you guys. 20 states in the country have introduced legislation to help farmers regain their right to repair, but unfortunately, the battle is a very, very uphill one. Because the issue concerns software, tech companies like Apple have a tendency of showing up to hearings on the subject. If John Deere lets their customers access their software, then a precedent might be set to make Apple let their users do the same. Apple doesn't want that. Now, because of this shared interest, farmers have teamed up with tech sector right to repair advocates like Louis Rossman, a YouTuber who shows people how to repair their gadgets. So he makes really good videos, you should watch him.
John Deere, in many ways, acts similarly to how Apple acts. We have a lot of the same complaints, the people that work on farms and on farm equipment, and people like me that try to, work on these devices.
Never thought I'd die fighting side by side with a techie.
What about side by side with a friend?
I could do that.
Chapter 6, Modern Venison. So the right to repair fight aside, what does John Deere look like today? Their largest tractor currently is the 9620 RX, a four-wheel drive, tracked field machine with a 15-liter Cummins turbo diesel making 620 horsepower, dude. The 9620 was designed for maximum traction in wet and hilly conditions, and since it uses tracks, the 55,000-pound curb weight is distributed over a larger area, minimizing the impact on the soil below. As a bit of an amateur farmer myself, I know that you don't want to impact the soil below. Also, I forgot to mention, it drives itself. GPS guidance isn't exactly a new thing, but John Deere's AutoTrack guidance system steers the tractor while the farmer on board is free to look after whatever equipment they're towing behind. John Deere is an iconic name with an undeniable impact on the world of farming and by extension, the world together. As the tractors keep advancing, the company stands at a crossroads, balancing the tradition it helped create and setting a new standard that is tarnishing the company's reputation among the people who rely on them most. If you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss anything. We put out a new video pretty much every day. If you want to know more about another vehicle that changed the American landscape, check out this video I did on Peterbilt. Follow me on Instagram at James Pumphrey. Follow Donut at Donut Media. Some fun behind the scenes stuff. I love you.